I think about growing a small business through paid ads as a flywheel. So you first is that you have to generate leads, or maybe even before that, you have to figure out like how do you position your brand in the marketplace. And after you figure out your unique positioning, then you run lead gen offers. Then from there, you nurture the leads. Then you get them to show up for the sale. You do the sales process. Then you fulfill. You increase LTV by doing a good job, and then you take some of the money, you track the data and all the stuff, and you reinvest back into the marketing. So if you can kind of create a loop where you can put $1 into lead gen and then get $3 out, and then maybe $1 goes to your expenses, then you put 1,000, you get 2,000 back that you can spend in the next cycle. So you kind of spin the flywheel as fast as possible.
Welcome to the iSearch podcast. Today we have Wayne Yap on the show. So Wayne is a private equity investor based in Singapore that buy and invest in businesses with 300,000 to 1 million profits in SGD. Today I'll be discussing with Wayne on how to buy boring business and turn 2,500 to 380,000 per month. So welcome to the show, Wayne.
Yeah, hi, happy to be here.
All right, so let's start with the term boring business. What type of business do you define as a boring business?
Well, I talked about boring business in one of my LinkedIn posts because I figured that's a word that would get people's attention. To me, boring business is just things that are not so sexy. Like businesses that, people don't really think about starting out when you're a new entrepreneur. So it's not like a tech company, it's not a SaaS product, or it's not like a online course, marketing agency, the kind of business that people usually start.
Okay, so what are examples of boring business? Since marketing agency, SaaS, tech business, those are more sexy business. So what are examples of boring business?
Probably anything to do with like cleaning houses, your normal retail business, just things that typical entrepreneurs wouldn't want to look for to buy. So maybe it's your janitorial business, or maybe it's your landscaping business, those kind of things. Like businesses that a lot of boomers might have started in the past, and now that they are at retiring age, they want to pass on their business, but maybe there's no one that wants to buy it.
I see.
Or their kids don't want to take over.
Okay, got it. So what are the key things that you look for before buying this type of boring business?
I wasn't set out to buy boring businesses in the first place. I was looking to buy businesses in general. And when I decided to buy businesses, I took a course to learn how to buy businesses. And I looked at over 500 plus financial statements, and I spoke with 100 plus different business owners. Really, I wasn't very sure what I wanted at the start. I just knew that I wanted to buy a business because before this, I was doing marketing consulting. And when you do strategy and consulting work, sometimes it's a bit annoying in the sense that when you do well for your clients, they don't need you anymore. When you try to enforce certain things onto them, like you have a strategy that you want to roll out, they are like adopting the strategy, and you don't have full control over rolling it out. So in my frustration, I decided that it actually is just a much better idea to go and buy some businesses on my own and then actually do it myself.
Okay, so you can basically apply the strategy that you wanted to apply for your clients, but instead you apply to all these boring businesses that you have acquired, which I would assume that probably they are not doing that well. So which is why you come in and probably acquire them and try to increase their revenue.
Well, it's a better strategy to buy existing profitable businesses. The first one I bought was not a profitable business, and it was a turnaround deal. The second one I bought was already profitable. It was already doing like 240K a year. I paid like 2x profits for it. Yeah, and then the third one I bought was not a profitable business. It was breaking even. So you can run many different strategies. It really depends on how well you know the industry and what you want to do and your confidence level.
Okay, so for an entrepreneur that wants to buy their first ever business, what is the process of buying the business, like from identifying the business, from sale to closing? How's the entire process like?
Okay, I would say that probably the very first stage is just to think about your deal criteria. What kind of business you want to buy? what industry is that, like what kind of expertise do you have that maybe you can, like if you've never run a business before and you want to enter entrepreneurship through acquisitions, like an acquisition entrepreneur, then yeah, it's important to actually know what kind of skills you bring to the table and where you can have an edge in the business that you buy. Now there's something called search funds, especially it's very popular in the US, where an MBA student or a business school student would go and search for a business to buy and raise money. Instead of raising venture capital money, they would kind of raise this thing called a search fund. So like let's say they raise 500K. The 500K will allow them to pay themselves a little bit, go and search for a deal, and then buy a business after. So anyway, you decide on what you want to buy first, then you figure out like, okay, what are the possible ways for me to reach out to these people? You can go on market, which is the broker sites, the listing sites. You can speak to business brokers. Those kind of deals are like people have listed them already. And otherwise, you can go like direct to the business, but then you need to do your own marketing. Maybe it's your LinkedIn outreach. We did a lot of that. We did a lot of cold emails in the past as well. Like we tried like more than 10 different channels in order to generate the leads. And some weeks we're doing 10 or 20 calls, me and my team, with the potential sellers, just to have a conversation with them, see if they're interested to sell or any ways that we can work together, given that we are looking to enter their industry. So after you get on a call with them, then you kind of figure out like, do they actually want to sell? And if they do, are they actually motivated to sell right now? Because if you want to buy a business for a good price, then the seller must really want to be exiting their business. Otherwise, if you're begging them to sell to you, then the price is not going to be very favorable and you can't really negotiate terms. Because buying a business isn't just about the price and the valuation, it's also very important to negotiate the terms. Like, can you ask the seller to finance some of the deal? Can you get some earnout so you can leverage your acquisition without borrowing money from the banks? Or maybe you want to borrow money from the banks as well. Then you need to figure out like, okay, can you get at least some deferred payments so you can buy the business, pay some percent down, take a loan through the business, and then pay the seller. So if you do things like that, you can, like, you buy a business that's a million valuation, you can pay like 200K or 300K or even 100K or even zero. Many people have bought businesses for zero. You just have to be very creative and you have to find someone that really wants to sell.
Okay. So based on your experience, like let's say for these boring businesses, let's say like just now you mentioned a landscaping company, or let's say if it's a laundromat, or if it's a cleaning company, do people need to have experience in this type of field before they acquire this type of companies?
Personally, I don't think so. It's good that you have a business mind and that you're not just going in blindly. Like you understand how to get leads, you understand how to sell things to people, you understand how to run a team, how to create processes, you understand how to read a financial statement. Because if you totally have no business experience, it can be a bit tricky. Like how are you supposed to even understand which business to buy? How do you even know if their P&L is accurate or they are kind of making it up? And what kind of multiple to pay, because the seller would have a lot of their expenses tied to the business. So if they add back, then that's seller discretionary earnings, and then there's also EBITDA. There's different terms for profits. But generally, if you buy a business that is already profitable and you don't pay a big multiple for it, it's a lot easier to keep a profitable business profitable than to start a business from scratch and make it profitable. So
Mm.
even if you have never done a business before, like it's not super easy to buy a business and make it work if you don't know the industry. However, it might still be easier than starting a business in the industry from scratch.
Mm. Okay, got it. So to access this type of companies, the financial statements, what are the documents that you need to sort of like issue to the seller to so that they can grant you the access for you to do like your checking or your due diligence?
Hmm. Well, there's no like strict requirement for what kind of documents is needed. Most sellers would prefer you if you sign an NDA. If you have an NDA template, you can download many of this. This is a non-disclosure agreement. So you send an NDA telling them that, oh, if you send me these documents, I'm not going to share it with anyone else.
Mm.
And I'm legally binded to not do that. And if I share anything that causes them harm, I could be penalized for it. So you kind of have to keep their financial statements a secret, lah, if you get it. Not everybody
Mm.
even like requires it, but most people do. So that's the first step. After you sign the NDA, you look at their financial statements. If you like it, you hop on a call with them to discuss more, or you send an LOI, which is a letter of intent. telling them that okay, I'm interested to buy your business for this price with these terms, and see what they say.
So typically, like when you outreach to potential sellers, would you have like a Zoom or Google Meet with them to sort of like discuss and find out what is their motivation, like whether are they interested in selling first, then only you request the NDA, or like how does it work?
Yeah, usually you like they must actually be somewhat interested in exiting the business first. Otherwise, there's no point in going to the NDA stage. Especially if it's a cold outreach, right? Like people are not
Mm,
gonna send an NDA to some random stranger they don't even have a conversation with. So it's pretty good to have an actual conversation on Zoom or in person even. It's usually easier to buy locally, like in your own country,
mm,
because people kind of tend to like they are kind of scared of selling to a foreign investor because like many things can go
mm,
wrong, and it's much harder to
right.
actually have protection for a lot of things. So if you can
Okay.
meet in person, it's definitely beneficial.
Mm. And just start local first. So for you, like the first thing that you mentioned just now is the deal criteria, right? So what is your own deal criteria? Like maybe just to give an example to the audience, like how do they set like a deal criteria?
Hmm. So when I was starting to buy, I mean the criteria I had was like I wanted a profitable business, at least doing 100K of profits a year, or hopefully at least 200K. In the end, I bought a failing business as my first one. My second one
Mm,
was a profitable one. So sometimes if you do criteria, but you search and search and search, and you can't really find exactly what you want, and you come across something else, so you might go outside of your criteria. However, it's kind of acts as a first filter to gauge your actual interest in it. Right now, I probably want to buy a business that is at least doing 500K of profits or more, because otherwise it's like USD. Otherwise, it's kind of too small. When it's small and you buy a small business, you have a lot of problems to fix. They usually don't have an operational team. They don't really have managers inside. Their systems are probably not in place. It's very reliant on the owner. There's quite a lot of issues for yeah, like businesses top line when there's not even like 1 or 2 million US. Yeah, it's generally a lot more work. But if you're willing to go in and do the dirty work, then you can choose smaller deals because probably it's a lot easier to buy those.
I mean, for first time, let's say entrepreneur that wants to buy like a business as their first business, probably they will start out with very small profit just to like get a taste of how it works before they like expand further to higher profits, right?
I actually don't think that that's the best strategy
Mm,
because buying a small business that has small profits is usually quite hard to, yeah, like there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of things you must learn. Versus if you can find a slightly bigger business that already has a management team, that already has systems in place, and it's already doing pretty decent profits,
mm,
it's generally going to be a lot easier to make sure you maintain or improve it. The challenge is that then you have to find a much more motivated seller who's willing to give you creative financing terms so you can buy the business without coming up too much cash, or you have to go and raise money
mm,
from other people to go and buy the business. And
like
those
the
pose its
search
own
funds that you
challenges.
mentioned just now.
Yeah, you could do a search fund. That's a proven model that's very popular in the US now.
Mm. Besides profit, is that like your only criteria? Like let's say 200,000 profits, or do you have let's say 200,000 profits, but these are the types of industry that I want, and these are the number of employees that minimum. Are there other criteria that you look at?
Yeah, for sure. There's probably like upwards of 20 different things that I will try to look at. So I'll just list a few examples. So industry is definitely something that's very important. The brand, you will kind of look at like, okay, how's the brand so far? You'll probably look at the product as well to see if you believe in the product. Because even if it's in the industry that you want, you have to, yeah, like you don't buy a product that you're not happy to sell. Like it kind of becomes kind of stupid. Then you probably want to see like ideally it would be like more than 10 people in the team for me because then I don't have to do anything operationally. I try to find businesses that lack something that I think I'm good at, like my skill sets. So the perfect business for me to buy would be something that has an extremely good product that isn't reliant on the owner, that isn't doing much marketing, so I can go in and crank up the marketing level right away and run some paid ads, create an SEO strategy, do some organic marketing, email, everything, and yeah.
Okay, are those like typically from what you see? Are those typically a boomer business?
When I was looking to buy businesses, the first businesses I wanted to buy was a marketing agency, which I kind of looked into it a lot, but I realized it was not a unless you're very operationally strong. it's not really that great of an idea to buy a marketing agency because most of it comes down to systematizing and documenting things down so you can get VAs to do the work for you. The second type of business I look for is e-commerce. So most of the owners weren't really boomers. And then I looked at
Mm.
Singapore local retail businesses, just like someone in my team found some deals that they shared with me, and I looked at it, and then we went to speak with the owners, and yeah, just ended up buying those.
Okay, so let's talk about the business that you took from 2.5K MRR to 380,000 MRR. What are the changes made and also the lessons learned?
Well, I mean, it sounds really good, right? Like such fast growth. But the first 1 year, first 2 years, first 1.5 years was probably a bit difficult because I didn't really know the industry. I bought it; it was a failing business. There wasn't much people in the team. I had to go in, input my own team, hire people, hire the wrong people. I didn't really know how to position ourselves in the marketplace. I tried different ad strategy. Maybe we get leads, but we don't know how to nurture them to show up. Then if they show up, we don't know how to convert them to a sale. We don't know how to retain people and increase the lifetime value. So there's many different things. Like you kind of start. I think about growing a small business through paid ads as a flywheel. So you first is that you have to generate leads, or maybe even before that you have to figure out like how do you position your brand in the marketplace. And after you figure out your unique positioning, then you run lead gen offers. Then from there you nurture the leads. Then you get them to show up for the sale. You do the sales process. Then you fulfill. You increase LTV by doing a good job, and then you take some of the money, you track the data and all the stuff, and you reinvest back into the marketing. So if you can kind of create a loop where you can put $1 into lead gen and then get $3 out, and then maybe $1 goes to your expenses, then you put 1,000, you get 2,000 back that you can spend in the next cycle. So you kind of spin the flywheel as fast as possible. Because like basically I see it as S curves in general, every channel that you go down. At first you kind of don't really see much results. You probably have to test many different channels. But then at some point you get some kind of exponential looking like results, which is the middle part of the S curve, where it goes vertical. And then towards the end it kind of plateaus because everything plateaus at some point. This is just the nature of the universe. There's a limited number of people in countries, there's limited number of people in the world, there's limited number of people that would like your brand. So yeah, you just have to find S curves that you can scale when it's working, and then find a different S curve to try and scale something else after it plateaus.
Okay, and what type of business is this?
This was a beauty business, like a beauty salon doing facials, slimming treatments, hair removal, lasers.
Mm. So I would assume that you probably don't have any experience in like this beauty industry, right? So what made you think that this business is like a good potential business to acquire?
There was a girl in my team who was quite passionate about beauty and beauty services, and to
Mm.
me it was like, okay, I did it for three reasons. The first is like I think this kind of business suits lead generation and marketing strategy. You generate leads, you sell to them, you get them to spend more, you reinvest back into the spending. That's the first. The second is that beauty is something that people will always want. Like people have wanted beauty treatments and to look good for at least 10,000 years, or since like yeah the start of humans. It's gonna last for a long time because Lindy effect. Like books that have
Mm.
lasted 1,000 years are probably gonna last 1,000 years more. Businesses in general, industries are the same as well. This is something that will last. So I was like, okay, it's not a bad thing to go into. And the third thing is like it was just a pretty decent deal overall, in the sense that it was in a really good mall right in the middle of Orchard Road, Somerset MRT. It was a good price, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can crank up the marketing level and make it work.
Mm. I mean, from where they start is like very low, right? Like 2.5K per month, and they have to pay the rental and all those things. I would assume that this is probably a loss making business that you buy.
Yeah, I was losing quite a lot. I mean, rent is like over 10K already, and then there's stuff and
Mm.
fees and stuff. I mean, they had some success before because the business has been around for quite a few years. So the first few years were good,
Mm.
and then halfway through, the owners decided to focus on other businesses. So I mean, they know how to do business. It's just like they focus on the ones that are working, and then try to sell the business that's not working.
Mm. Right. So basically, the turning point is when you acquire it, you try different marketing strategies, you get a lot of leads to come in, and that's how it grow from like 2.5K to 380K per month.
I mean, there isn't like one single turning point. One thing we decided to do is stop selling packages because the industry, everybody is just selling packages. So we sold memberships instead, which is a monthly fee. Because, yeah, this industry is known to be very pushy on the sales. So you come in, you get a person into the door, and then you sell like $10,000, $5,000 packages. And yeah,
Mm.
people kind of feel very pressured. And many people don't even want to go for beauty treatments because of that feeling of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get hustled and hard sold. So we kind of decided to take a stand for our brand, which is like, okay, we have no packages, no hard selling. So we do membership, which is much more, it aligns incentives better between the purchaser and the business because our job is to make them stay and to do a good job, and it's not to keep selling them and give them a bad experience. Because if we get them one bad experience, they would cancel. So yeah, I think it's just like how do you align incentives, how do you figure out bottlenecks within the business, and just look through all of the little details and think of how you can get the business up to be better.
Mm. Okay. And are you like still running the business? Like, are you still in the business, or you already have like a CEO to operate this beauty salon?
Right now, I am putting a bit of attention to this. In the last year, I had a CEO and I had an operations manager as well who came and helped me to run the business. Right now, because we decided that, okay, actually, I think it's useful for me to add new things to the business. So I'm running extra different like business units. Like one of them, for example, is more focused on weight loss because we offer a lot of slimming treatments, but we don't really take the extra step, the next step, which is to help people with the diet plan and meal planning. So because I wanted to do a project on that, then I went to collect a lot of data, went to work with a lot of AI to figure out like, okay, can we create something that recommends meal plans very easily for people? So from there, then we also like, okay, can we partner with different gyms and different businesses such that we can deliver 10 times more results than if they just came for the slimming treatments? Because these slimming treatments, they help like 20-30%. They're not bad. They can help you to reduce your fats in a certain area like by a small amount. But it's not a magic pill that some people hope for. And if they really want to have a big change, then you need to do more than just that. You need to watch your diet. You can't just like eat like anything you want and then come for one slimming treatment and you go for liposuction and just expect everything to change, right? Then you have to change your mindset, you have to change your habits, your diet. Yeah, so I kind of decided to come back to the business to put a bit of attention to this.
Mm. And in your portfolio of business, how many business are you like investing or running currently?
Wow, that's a difficult question because there's quite a few new projects that we have started. So if we include all of those, and a lot of these are like, okay, there's one brand in the UK, for example, but the one brand has 4 locations and I have partial equity in some of them and some I don't. So like the entities and whatever stuff, it's very hard to really say like how many you're running. But it's probably, I guess for simplicity, it's like 3 to 5, you can say.
And do you like have like a synergy among those 3 to 5 business? Like, let's say one is like beauty, another one could be maybe a beauty products e-commerce business, so that is somehow related to this whole beauty line, or do you just acquire companies from different industry as long as they meet your profit criteria?
When I went to UK, I decided to focus on the same industry because it's like different countries, many different things to learn, different market. So I was like, okay, I'll go and get a laser aesthetic clinic there. So that was what I did. For
Mm.
me personally, my interests are more around strategy and like I'm putting in some attention to building up quiz funnels. I'm putting some attention to writing a book. I mean, to me, I'm pretty industry agnostic as long as I believe in the product because the parts that I like is like how do you reinvent your business model? How do you figure out the marketing strategy? Of course, if the business requires lead generation, lead nurturing, those are parts that I've put a lot of time into, like Google, SEM, SEO, and then also
Mm.
like how do you integrate this with Wati, for example, which is a WhatsApp business API that you can then pull the data to Airtable and then use that to nurture the leads and track how many percent of the leads show up. Yeah, if the business requires these things, then it's definitely a lot better for me because I have a team that's already skilled in those things. So I don't have to do a lot of work in order to improve the business fast.
Mm. Okay, makes sense. Right, let's move on to talk about valuation. So, how would the business owner knows like how much to pay for the business that they want to acquire?
I mean, okay, so valuation, there's probably two common ways to do it. The first is you get a valuation company to value the business. But usually the valuation will be quite high and you have to pay quite a lot for these valuation companies to do the business. Because if you think about the valuation company's perspective, if somebody goes to them and asks them to value a business, they kind of have to make it as good as possible and make it as high as possible, because the incentive is that they want to help the business to sell the business and take a cut of the profits or take a cut of the sale. So therefore, they have incentive to mark up
Push
the
up.
valuation in order to attract and get the customer in the business that wants to sell. The other common way is just like multiple of profits, and you can run discounted cash flow analysis. You can to count like what's the future profits. That's another way, which is what they do in the valuation stuff. But the easy way is just like, okay, what's the EBITDA or what's the SDE, and then you take a multiple of that. And different industries have different multiples. So, for example, if you are in Amazon, you sell an FBA business, it's very fixed. Like people know it's like, okay, between 3 to 5 times of your annual profits. If you sell e-com business as well, it's the same. Maybe it's higher if your business is bigger. Yeah, so you can kind of pull industry multiples, and depends on the size, because if it's a small business, then there's less buyers and more sellers, and it's just a less functioning business. So the multiples might be, between 1 to 4. If it's a medium-sized business, maybe you get like 6 to 8. If it's a big enough business that has like 3 to 5 million of profits or more annually, then maybe it goes up to 10 or 15x at the PE level.
Right. I mean, like for business, okay, let's say if we talk about property, you have your property guru, you have your iProperty, so that you can search for a list of properties. For cars, you have your Custom, you have your car list. For travel, you have your booking.com, you have your Agoda. For business, is there a place where we can actually go into like a marketplace and see what are the type of businesses for sale?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They're probably not as well developed. So I think the
Hmm.
famous big one in the US is Biz Buy Sell. In Singapore, Malaysia, I think there's like business for sale.sg. There's mergers, which is like SME mergers kind of. So you can list your company there as well. In general, there's not as many small businesses for sale on these sites in Asia. Like a lot of people, if they don't want their business, they just think of closing down. They don't even think about selling. And a
Right.
lot of sellers have kind of an ego of like, I don't want to sell my business at this price. Sometimes they rather close down and it go to zero than sell at a low price, which is really strange.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, for someone who's not familiar with acquisitions, do they need to engage consultants to help them with the buying process, given that this is the first business that they are about to acquire without any experience?
Wow, I mean, that's a really tough question. It really depends on the skill level of that person. Like, if the person has already run a business before, then I would actually say it's probably better not to have a consultant, because I mean, personally, my take is that most of these consultants, brokers, when it comes to business, like 90% of them are rubbish, and they're just like, the incentives don't really align. They'll just sell you, they just tell you whatever lies that they can in many cases, or exaggerate certain things in order to make it sound appealing and to make it sound good, in order for them to get what they want. So I don't really think they help that much. Of course, a really good one would be able to help a lot. But if you're new to this, you would probably end up picking a lousy one, because yeah, your chances are might be 1 in 10. And how will you know who is a good one?
Right. But I would think that minimum you probably need a lawyer, right?
I mean, for the stock purchase agreement when you're closing the deal, yeah, you definitely need a lawyer. For the LOI stage, it's probably better to get a lawyer, but you don't absolutely have to. Yeah, and you probably want them to
Oh,
do your legal duty towards the end. But this is only after the like stock purchase agreement is already like kind of agreed upon, right? Like in general agree on the terms of the sale already, because it's quite expensive.
what? Okay. What about the NDA stage? Do you just like find some online templates
Yeah,
and send out, or do you
yeah.
need a lawyer to draft for you?
I mean, for me, NDA is just like, yeah, just use whatever. It's too expensive to get a lawyer for this kind of thing. And NDA is like, it's pretty soft in the sense that people have spent a lot of time solving this problem, and isn't rocket science. The terms really doesn't matter that much. It's quite safe in that stage. So yeah, just use AI or something. You can probably get them to change certain words for you and check through that thing to make sure it's suitable for your
Okay.
country, and it's probably good enough.
Right. So NDA and LI stage, you can just get the online template or AI, but the closing stage, you will need a lawyer. Lah.
LI is like, I guess I would probably say if your first time, you probably prefer, it's probably better for you to get a lawyer. Yeah, at least
Mm.
get them to do it for you the first time, for the first LI. Then after that in future, if the deal is not too complex, then maybe potentially you can reuse the LOI that you have already, but just change certain parts of things.
Okay, great. So before we end the podcast, currently, what are the personal projects that you are excited about?
Well, actually, there's probably two main projects that I'm excited about. The first is a poker strategy business book that I'm writing. I kind of want to turn it into something that goes from my early stages of my poker career all the way to playing mega high stakes where you win and lose hundreds of thousands or even millions. And just kind of break down like, okay, what's the strategy you learn? So I want to use poker as a medium to teach strategy because I realize that strategy is something that I'm particularly excited about. And then the second project I'm excited about is a quiz funnel that I created. I call it a founder archetype quiz. So there's 10 billionaires that I list there. Basically, I view entrepreneurship and starting a business right now in today's age that there's four different main kinds of people. So the first kind is the visionary. These are the very big idea, the big purpose, you want to change, you want to go to Mars, the visionaries. The second is the operators. So these are the back end people that run the systems, they do the work, they lead the team, the manager leaders. And then the third type is the maestro, which is like the specialist, the person who is extremely talented at their craft. Like you can become a billionaire business person by just being extremely good at one thing. Maybe it's designing a product. This is your product person. You can be the best coder in the world. You can be the best AI researcher in the world. So you're really your technicians. And the fourth kind is the attention person, the creator person, the icon. That's what I call them. Where your Kylie Jenners of the world, your Mr. Beast of the world, where you can get so much attention from people that you can turn it into a
Mm.
business and make a lot of money from it. But then there's also the six combination types because some people are just like, for example, Mr. Beast is a technician and maestro and also an icon. He's really good at his craft and he's also really good at getting attention. So my personal belief is that on the internet these days, people just sell so much rubbish of like, okay, buy my course, follow my systems, follow my templates, follow my method, and it will work for you. I feel like that's just giving their winning lottery ticket, and everybody kind of needs to find a path that suits them. So if you're a visionary and you feel like you're getting bogged down by all of the operations and system stuff, and you just like you feel super frustrated for it, then maybe you need to go and learn from somebody who has walked the path that you want to walk, which is that just focus on big idea, big vision, and partner with other people that can do the parts that you're not so good at. So because I thought about this a lot and I was quite frustrated in my journey, because as I'm growing the businesses, at the early stages, it's like, I keep thinking I have to systematize and document everything down. I tried Notion and do all of these templates and whatever stuff. Record every single process down, and then this process, people tell you process it down, you can use it forever. But every process has a half life. You have this template, like it's not gonna work forever. No system kind of works forever in many cases, especially when it comes to business SOPs. So I had like a very strong frustration around this, and I really want to focus on the visionary and the strategy side. So I decided to plan and think of like different orthogonal categories and questions that I can ask for each of these different things so that I can categorize people better. And then I wrote like 10 different email sequences for each of the 10 different types that recommends them the correct books to read, the correct influencers to follow, and yeah, just like how to learn faster and accelerate your path. So yeah, I mean it's not 100% done. Like it's the quiz is done. The backend is like 80-90% done. I'm putting in a lot of time. Now we're on like version 3. So I'll probably get the version 3 out probably this week. And then yeah, put it out to the marketplace. So if anybody wants to try, they can go to my website, like quiz.wayneyap.com. They can try there. It'll definitely be something that improves over time. You can see like which one of the 10 billionaires you are, and so as like yeah, figure out what path suits you most.
Mm. Okay, cool. I mean, from knowing what type of entrepreneur you are, when you try to execute or when you try to run your business, it will be smoother because you know what type of people you actually need to complement you instead of hiring like the same type of people as you.
Yeah, and even like okay, I'll give you an example, right? If you're a freelancer and you are, let's say, helping somebody with some service, maybe it's buying ads, or maybe it's designing a logo design. So now you're a
Mm.
freelancer. What path do you choose? If you are somebody that's much stronger in operations, running an agency is a pretty good idea because you can document down what you are good at and pass it on to some other person can do it for you, and you can scale up that way. If you are much better at getting attention to yourself and you're more of the media person, then you probably want to build a personal brand and focus on going down that path and then leverage that into um, people paying more for your services, or productizing yourself, taking what you know, putting it into a product, and because you can get attention to your product, then you can sell it that way. But if you are a visionary, a strategy person, maybe it makes sense to do more consulting and yeah, like instead of being a agency, you'll be a consultant. Whereas if you're the best in the world at the craft, and then probably you just like okay, like if you are the best in the world at Google Ads, so you're the best in the world at Meta Ads, you can whatever it is that you're the best in the world at, you can just focus on that and do that thing super super well. Then you don't have to really run a business. It might not be the best path for you. You just be the best freelancer or the best solo business person in the world if you are more of that personality type. So I believe like if you really know and you really think through what you like and what you dislike, you can find a business that suits you more. Whether it's starting it, growing a business, acquiring a business.
Okay, got it. So I would assume that this is probably going to be a future book of yours as well to like identify the type of entrepreneurs besides the poker book.
I mean, I'm creating a lot of content around, like a lot of basic content. So probably for each of the 10 types, there'll be like 3 pages and then a follow-on email sequence. And this is all free, right? So just like I just want to share these things with the world. I feel like it's my art that I want to create. However, I'm unlikely to turn it into a full book because I'm probably only extremely competent in one of the 10 because I'm one of the 10 types. So I think writing a book, I will not be able to describe the other 9 types well enough. And I probably am not interested in going to study all the other 9 types that much to the point where I feel like I'm qualified to give extremely sophisticated advice and to turn it into 10 chapters of a book. I'm more likely to focus
Okay.
on strategy and the one part which I really like and that I'm good at.
Okay. So before we end, just curious, which type are you out of the 10?
I'm very strong towards the visionary. So if like you're just visionary, then I call it the epochal visionary. So you're kind of like, yeah, you want to make big changes to the world.
Okay. Like the Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, that type.
Yeah, mainly, yeah. So I think personally, I feel like Elon Musk is pure visionary, but because you have to choose a path to go down. And when you're really good at that path, eventually you kind of figure out all 4. He's also very good at the other 3 parts, but like his natural inclination is towards the visionary path. Steve Jobs is probably a combination of the visionary as well as the maestro, which is like he's very visionary, but he's also extremely dedicated to the small details and wants the perfection of product.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Wayne, for coming onto the show. Check out Wayne's quiz down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, bye.